Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to our Sunday morning Tanya class. We learned last week, the last couple of times we were going through the first half of chapter 18. Last week I showed you I don't know if anyone still has it.
Yes.
I printed out a printout of the 10 Sefirot. And what we learned, basically, I'll briefly go over again something the Alter Rebbe said regarding every single Jew. And that is that within us, everyone has a hidden love, a ahava mesuteres, a hidden love, a love for Hashem that is innate. It is intrinsic to the Jew. It's part and parcel of who we are. And where did we get it from? We got it from the patriarchs. What do I mean by the patriarchs? We got it from the patriarchs. Their divine service to Hashem was of such a nature that godliness became part of their identity. And as such, they merited to bequeath to every single Jew in the future, their descendants, a Neshamah, a soul, a godly soul, that comes from the 10 spheres of Atzilus. And those 10 spheres of Atzilus, we talked about them last week. I showed you the way the picture of how they are situated, and he also explained that the 10 spheres of Atzilus, well, there's 4 worlds basically, right? Atzilus, Bria, the 4 different worlds. Within each, there's 10 spheres, and each one of us, every single Jew, has a Neshamah from one of those 10 spheres. Even the lowliest Jew possible has a Neshamah, even if it's from the lowest level of the lowest world, but he has within him a Neshamah Kadesha, a holy soul of those 10 spheres, in which, and he went on to explain, that in each of these Neshamas, in each level, comes from the highest level. They all evolve from the highest level, which is Hokhmah of Atzilus, which is the highest level, and Hokhmah of Atzilus, in Hokhmah of Atzilus, is the presence of the Eir Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem, which is present in Hokhmah of Atzilus. And because every one of our neshamas originate in Hokhmah of Atzilus, so we all have within our neshama a connection, not only a connection, but within our neshama, or at least in the Hokhmah of our neshama, because our neshama is also made up of these 10 faculties. So in Hokhmah of our neshama, in the Hokhmah of the nefesh, is present the infinite light of Hashem Himself. So every one of us, again, to summarize this, every single Jew has within him or her, has a neshama, and in that neshama there are 10 faculties: Chokhmah, Bina, Das, all the way down. There's 3 intellectual faculties, 7 emotional faculties. And in the Chokhmah of the Nefesh, in the highest level of the Neshama, is present the Eir Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem. Because in the Chokhmah of our Nefesh is Chokhmah of Asiyah, which has in it Chokhmah of Yitzira, Chokhmah of Bria, and all the way to Chokhmah of Atzilus. That's what he said last week. And because of that, we have an innate love for Hashem. That neshama is what causes us to have an absolute love for Hashem, because Hashem is part of us. So you're going to love yourself, because Hashem is part of your identity. That was the summary of last week's class. What I will do is I'm going to read the last few lines of what we learned last week. It's on page 75 in the Tanya, the bilingual edition. And we're going to start on the right column, about 10 lines from the bottom. The last word is thus. You with me?
Yep.
thus it comes to pass that the blessed Ein Sof, which means the infinite light of Hashem, is garbed, as it were, in the wisdom, the Hokhmah of the human soul, of the nefesh of our soul, of whatever sort of Jew he may be. In turn, the soul's faculty of wisdom, Hokhmah, together with the light of the blessed Ein Sof that is vested in it, spreads throughout the entire soul, animating it from head to foot, so to speak. So it turns out that that energy, the Eir Ein Sof, the energy of Hashem's infinite light, is what animates through our own Hokhmah of Nefesh our entire soul. So to speak, as it is written, wisdom giveth life to them that have it. So through Hokhmah, through wisdom, we have life, because that's what animates the whole entire existence of our Neshamah. Okay, we'll skip I spoke about this parentheses last week also, if you remember. So we're going to now start from the words now Hokhmah. The question over here that Alter Rebbe is now going to address is as follows. What we're saying is, this is a radical idea. What we're saying is that through our own Hokhmah of our nefesh, we grasp the infinite light of Hashem, right? Because Hashem is present in the Hokhmah of our nefesh. Correct or not?
Yeah.
Is this understood?
Yeah.
The question is, it says clearly, "Les machshava tfisa beiklal." The Zohar says, no soul can grasp him at all. No thought can grasp Hashem at all. In other words, Hashem is not graspable through our own. How can you grasp Hashem himself? How can a human being, which is finite, with limited wisdom, limited thought processes, he can't. The Zohar says, we can never grasp the Eir Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem. And here we're saying that through our Hokhmah of our Nefesh, we grasp Hashem. He's present in our Hokhmah. Correct? So somehow we do grasp him. And it says that Les machshava tfisa bei, no thought can grasp Hashem. And the seemingly Hokhmah is part of our intellectual. It's part of the three intellectual faculties of the soul. So through the intellect of Hokhmah, we grasp Hashem. How's that possible? It says no thought can grasp it. So the Alter Rebbe is going to explain over here something very, very profound. And I'll explain it first orally, and then we'll learn it in the Alter Rebbe's words. If you'll take out that little that sheet, it doesn't. So you have over there three. You have Hokhmah, Bina, Das. In the soul of man, our soul, our Neshamah, is made up of 10 faculties. 3 of them we said are intellectual faculties, and the last 7 are emotional faculties, or 6 of them are emotional faculties, and Malchus being the feminine aspect of our Neshamah, which funnels through the energy of these to action, so that we can behave accordingly. Okay. So in the intellectual faculties, there are three faculties. There are three stages. The first is Hokhmah, wisdom. The second is Bina, and the third is Das. Okay. What are these 3 intellectual faculties? And again, Hokhmah being that faculty that is the seat, that is that level that through it we have the presence of the Eir Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem within our Neshamah. So what are these 3 faculties? Let me explain it briefly as best as I can. I've done this already in chapter 3. We went through all these faculties in chapter 3 in great detail, but I'll repeat it for the benefit of refreshing our memory and understanding what the Alter Rebbe is saying over here. What happened? What's Hokhmah? Hokhmah is the first, and it's important to understand this. Hokhmah is the first flash of wisdom that enters a person's mind. Let me try to illustrate this more specifically,
think I was trying to give them the...
There. That's
I
great.
gave them the wrong one.
That's okay. It's whatever.
I changed it.
The Bina,
Yeah. Hokhmah is the first flash of wisdom called in the works of Kabbalah the Barak HaMavrik, the lightning bolt of intellectual information. What that means is as follows. Does it ever happen to you, for example, that you're sitting and learning a topic or thinking about something, and you get stuck? You can't, you for whatever reason, your mind is not grasping. You don't get it. You don't understand what you're learning. You don't understand the concept. You have many questions, many contradictions, whatever it may be. You don't have it. You're not getting it. You're not understanding. For example, you're sitting in the yeshiva and you're learning a piece of Talmud and you get stuck. You don't understand what is going on with you. You don't get it. So what do? You think about it more. You learn it more. You delve into it deeper. Or you try your best, right? What happens suddenly, many times what happens is suddenly, out of nowhere, you have in your mind a flash of wisdom. You suddenly feel, I got it. I think I have it. Something lights up in your mind, and you've, in that moment, you see, you can't yet explain it to anyone. Someone saw you in this experience. You lit up. You say, I have it. There's something that enters your mind, a flash of wisdom, that for the moment you see, I think this answers all my questions. With this I have it all figured out. But if someone's sitting near you and sees you in this experience and he says, hey, Rabbi, tell me what you just experienced. Could you explain it? You can't explain it yet. Why can't you explain it? Because you yourself don't even understand it yet. It's just like a lightning. You know what happens when you have a lightning in the middle of the night? Suddenly you see everything and then it goes dark again. But when it goes dark, now you know where everything is, because you saw for a second, and now you can start dissecting through the second process of the intellectual faculties called Bina, understanding. Now you can take that flash of wisdom and begin to build an entire intellectual structure that through this you'll understand now this whole thing properly. In Bina, you begin to dissect it part by part. You build, everything has its place. You can, and after you finish with the Bina process, you can explain it to anyone, because you yourself understand it. So Hokhmah is the flash of wisdom. You see it. Bina is you understand it. When you see it, it's almost like the mind's eye. The mind sees something. You have a flash that this answers, this takes care. You know that you have it now. But you have to, right away, you can't wait, and you can't wait. Because if you wait and you say, oh, I'll get back to this tomorrow. You get back to your Hokhmah tomorrow and you lost it. You have to right away sit down and start going back to what you just experienced and take it apart and build a Bina experience. You, through Bina, build a whole entire intellectual structure with its length and its breadth and its depth and the whole thing. Once you have it in your own mind, you can come back to it a week later and you can explain it again. Because you understand it. Now it's in your mind as a full understood topic. But with Hokhmah alone you can't. So the minute you have the Hokhmah experience, you have to take it then and bring it down into the Bina experience. Which means like this. So I want to explain for a moment the difference between Hokhmah and Bina. By the way, in Kabbalah it tells us that Hokhmah is the father, Bina is the mother. Because what's different in the creation of a child, there's a very big difference between the father and the mother. The father contributes the Hokhmah, the flash, the drop, if you want to call it, that seminal point where everything is there, but in a very concise manner. And the mother then, in 9 months, dissects it, develops it, the length, the breadth, every single sinew, every single particle of this body becomes compartmentalized. That's the difference between Hokhmah and Bina. In the intellectual process, it's the same thing. In Hokhmah, you have the whole thing encapsulated in one flash of wisdom. In Bina, you compartmentalize it into different aspects. This is this, that, this explains this explains that. The length, the breadth, the depth. Hokhmah is the mother, is the father, Bina is the mother. What's the difference between Hokhmah and Bina in our own experience? In Hokhmah, in many places it's explained that the difference between Hokhmah and Bina is the difference between seeing and hearing. What's the difference between seeing and hearing? When you walk into a room and you see a beautiful painting, for example, you walk into a museum and you see a beautiful Rembrandt, you're overtaken. It's mind-blowing. You can't believe what you're just seeing now. But then, imagine someone saw a Rembrandt and then came to you and told you what he saw. So you're hearing it now. You're not seeing it. You're hearing it from someone else. And the guy has an unbelievable ability to explain and describe to you exactly what he saw with every detail. So by the time this person is finished explaining it to you, you get a picture of what this painting looks like. You get a perfect picture. He's really good, and he can give it over really with all his details. But there's still a major, massive difference between seeing and hearing. What's the difference? When you see that painting, the painting, Rembrandt has made himself available, or the painting has presented itself to you. You're secondary here. The painting is what's shining. You're taking it in all at once. Your eyes see it, you have the whole thing at once. If you walked away from that painting, and you now have to explain it to someone else, let's do it that way. You saw the painting, and now you want to explain it to someone else. Okay? What do you have to do? You have to now remember, what did I just say? Okay, over here there was a red hand, over there was an unbelievable thing, over here, over there. You explain the whole thing. That's Bina. You're dissecting what you just saw. In Hokhmah, when you saw the painting the first time, you saw the whole thing. It was all presented itself to you. In Bina, you are the one that is asserting itself. You're explaining, you're building a structure of intellectual understanding. In Hokhmah, the idea is dominant, is presenting itself, is shining in your mind. The idea is what's present. You're secondary, you're observing. In Bina, you're present. The idea is secondary. What do I mean by secondary? It's being dissected by you. You understand the difference? It's like the difference between seeing and the hearing. In seeing, you have it all at once. What do I mean by all at once? When you see something, that thing has presented itself to you in your mind, in your sight, wherever, in your mind. It's all through the conscious mind. So you're secondary. The idea, this picture, this idea is the one that's dominant. In Bina, you're dominant. You assert yourself to try to understand something that is outside of you, which is not in front of you. You don't see it. So you have to build the building blocks of this intellectual structure. So it's you the one that has to make that happen. You understand or not? In other words, in your Hokhmah, when you're experiencing Hokhmah, let's go back to an intellectual idea. A godly concept. Or any concept. Yeah? In Hokhmah, a window opens. A window in your mind opens up. Right? And the truth of this idea has entered, has pushed its way into your mind. Has made itself present in your mind. The truth of that idea has in Hokhmah, a window opened and it came into your mind. It reveals itself to you, even though you don't understand it yet properly. You can't explain it, but it has presented itself to you. It shines to you. In Bina, it's a little different. In Bina, nothing shines. You have to build it up. You have to take it step by step and create something out of what you see, what you had a moment ago. But you in Bina, your mind has to now take over and build something out of it, and build an intellectual structure. And therefore, if you take a look at the word Hokhmah, what is the word Hokhmah made of? Two words. Koyach ma. Hokhmah is koach ma. What does koyach ma mean? In the stage of Hokhmah, again, I said, you don't yet understand this thing fully. When someone asks you, what did you experience? Ma, I don't know. I still don't know what it is. Maza, what is it? It's a koyach, it's a faculty of ma. You still don't have it. You're still asking, what is it? Because you don't fully understand it. But you know you have something. You have a flash, and that's a powerful flash. In Hokhmah, there's no greater pleasure than in Hokhmah. Because in that moment you have the whole thing. You see it and you experience it. How do you experience Hokhmah? What does it take to have Hokhmah happen to you? So let's go back to the person that's stuck on a piece of Talmud, he's not getting it. Or anything you're trying to grasp and you don't understand. Calculus or the theory of relativity, whatever it is that you're learning. You're stuck, yeah? What do you have to do? You don't understand. So you have to think about it more, right? What you really have to do is you have to fix your mind in it and allow for everything to disappear from you have to be completely in that thing, and you have to submit to the topic, meaning you have to totally nullify your own. It takes what we call in Hasidic vernacular bittul. You ever heard of the word bittul? Bittul means self-nullification. You have to allow yourself to become self. You have to, your ego, your intellectual ego has to be submitted. You have to submit to the topic. Allow the topic to enter your mind. That's when you'll experience Hokhmah. Without the bittul, you will never experience Hokhmah. Hokhmah shines where you are not shining. Hokhmah is made possible where you submit, where you are no longer present in the sense that you assert your presence. You have to be there, of course, but you have to be there as a self-negated existence. You have to be submitted to the topic and allow the topic to enter you. Open a window, become null, and let the topic take over. And then it enters you. Then you experience the flash of wisdom. Then you have to assert yourself. Once the Hokhmah came in, you have to then assert yourself with Bina to build it, to make it, to dissect it, to compartmentalize it, and to understand. So in the Hokhmah experience, you have bittul, you're self-negated. In Bina, you can't be self-negated. On the contrary, in Bina, your intellectual, I don't want to say the word ego because it's a negative word, but the intellectual ego must assert itself and now take over and begin to build that structure. And now then you'll understand it properly. So Hokhmah, in order for Hokhmah to happen, there has to be bittul. There has to be this concept of self-negation, self-nullification, transparency of self. Correct? So in Hokhmah you don't understand yet. So in Hokhmah you don't grasp it intellectually. You don't have a full grasp of it intellectually. You need bittul. And that is why it's in Hokhmah of your nefesh.
It's not that easy to do the bittul.
It's not so easy. You have to, but that's what it takes. In order to experience Hokhmah, you have to go through that process and open yourself up to the topic, to the idea. Let it take over. Am I clear? Mm-hmm. Now you understand perhaps why it is that in Hokhmah of the Nefesh, the Ein Sof, the infinite Hashem, is present. Hashem can only be with his bittul. Hashem can be present in a Jew who has bittul. The minute your ego is standing out and you're fully present and you feel your self-importance, God's out. Only in Hokhmah of the Nefesh could God be fully present. Why? Because you're not. Because you have bittul. So when we say les machshava tfisa beklal, no thought process can ever grasp Hashem, that's 100% true. It's not your thought that's grasping Hashem. It's your bittul that is allowing for Hashem to enter. So he could be grasped through bittul. He can be present where you're not there, where you are bottled, where you are self-negated, so to say. And that's where he's present. Let's learn it inside the Alter Rebbe's words for a few minutes, and then we'll get back to explaining it better. We are on page 77 with that circle and triangle. Now, Hokhmah, wisdom, is the source of intelligence and comprehension. It's the source of intelligence and comprehension. Without Hokhmah, you can't have Bina. And it is above Bina understanding. It's before understanding. It's above understanding, which is intellectual understanding and comprehension. Bina is intellectual comprehension and understanding. This Hokhmah is above Bina, whereas Hokhmah is above them, and their source. Note the etymological composition of the word Hokhmah. Koyachma, the potentiality of what is. It's a power of ma. You still don't know it's there. There's something there, but you can't say what. It's ma. You're still asking, what is this? What did I just experience? You know you have something, but you don't know what. It's still not fully understood by you. Not even not at all. But you know there's something shining in me. Through this, I'm going to explain this and understand this whole topic. That which is not yet comprehended and understood and grasped intellectually. It's not yet grasped intellectually and understood. Consequently, there is vested in it the light of the Ein Sof, blessed be He, the infinite light of Hashem, because it's not through grasping intellectually, who can in no way be comprehended by any thought. Hashem himself can't be comprehended through intellectual grasp. And that's why only in Hokhmah could he be present. Because in Bina, where you grasp it intellectually, less machshava, there's no thought can grasp him that way. Hashem is not, in other words, what do I mean by this? You can't understand God. Could you understand the infinite God? Of course not. There's certain things, for example, to give you an example, I heard a good example for this. You have a person, a blind Nebuch. The person is blind. So you can't take him to an art museum. You can't see the beauty of a picture, right? So you tell him, but you could hear. Listen to the beauty of that picture. The problem is that the art cannot be taken through hearing. It can only be taken through sight. I mean, you can explain to him what's in there, but he'll never appreciate the art. Or if someone is deaf, and you wanted him to appreciate a beautiful composition by Beethoven, you tell him, but you can see. You're not blind. Beethoven is not taken through eyes; it's taken through ears. The eyes are not a proper vessel to take in beautiful music. The ears are the vessel for that. The eyes are the vessel to take in a beautiful Rembrandt, not the ears. Intellectual comprehension is not the vessel to take in godliness, to take in the infinite light of Hashem. He's not graspable through intellectual comprehension. He's beyond grasp. He's beyond you can never understand the infinite God. Sure, there's certain parts of Hashem that He made available for you to understand as much as you can. But ultimately, the Ein Sof, the infinite light, you can never grasp through intellect. It's like a deaf person trying to understand, to hear music. Or a person with eyes trying to take in music. It doesn't happen that way. That's not the vessel through which you take in music. The ears are the vessel for music. The eyes are the vessel for art. The brain the intellect is not the vessel for grasping Hashem. What is the vessel? Bittul. Self-negation. When you are bottle, Hashem enters. That's the way to grasp Hashem. And that's what we call emunah, faith. Faith is the vessel to take in God. Through faith, you have a connection to God, not through intellect. We're talking about the infinite levels of Hashem. Those parts of Hashem that He made available to our brain and our intellect, we must grasp through the intellect. But we're talking about the Eir Ein Sof, the infinite light of Hashem. It's not taken in through intellect and comprehension, grasping it through comprehension. The vessel for having a connection and becoming one with Hashem is through emunah, through faith. Let's see what he says a little further. Consequently, there's vested in it, in Hokhmah, because it's beyond grasp, beyond comprehension. So in it is vested the light of the Ein Sof, blessed be He, who can in no way be comprehended by any thought. Hence, all Jews, even the women and the illiterate, in those days women didn't learn, they were illiterate, believed in God, since faith is beyond understanding and comprehension. For the simple believe everything, but the prudent man understandeth. But with regard to the Holy One, blessed be He, who is beyond intelligence and knowledge, and who can in no way be comprehended by any thought, all men are like fools in His blessed presence, as is written. So brutish am I, King David says in Tehillim, so brutish am I, and ignorant I am as a beast before Thee. Yet I am continually with Thee. Meaning that because I am brutish and as a beast, I am continually with Thee. Let's stop here a minute. Let me explain what's going on over here. He's saying there's two things, this comprehension and this faith. Comprehension is not the vessel, not the means with which to have a connection to Hashem. You can't understand Him. How then do you have a relationship with Hashem? Through faith. You believe. Now he says over here, that's why, and when it comes to faith, the greatest intellect, the highest Hokhmah, and the simplest boorish individual, when it comes to faith, they were both equal. Because this is not something that you take through intellect. So the greatest intellect is as close as the Ein Sof to the Ein Sof as you are. Or the boorish person is. Because it's not through intellect that you take him. You take him through faith. Faith is available. Everyone has the same faith. Now I want to explain what faith is for a minute. You know, they say in English, there's this, they say the term blind faith, right? Mm-hmm. What does blind faith mean usually?
Faith, no questions.
You don't question, you believe what you're told, end of story. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Depends where you use it.
Yeah, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Depends what it is.
Uh-huh. There is something called in Hasidic, in Tanya and in Hasidic discourses, there's two types of faith. This emunah mata mitam v'das, emunah that is lower, below intellect, and emunah l'mayla mitam v'das, emunah that is beyond intellect, above intellect. What's the difference? What is the difference between these two ideas in faith? Emunah is faith. One emunah is below intellect, and one emunah is above intellect. What does that mean? You get the difference? What is really the difference between those two? is the difference that I would like to explain it as follows, say it as follows. If I were to say it in one word, it would be like this. One is a fool's faith, and one is a sophisticated faith. Emunah that's below faith, below intellect, is a simple person's faith. He doesn't know much, and he believes what you tell him. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's very bad. A lot of people believe silly things just because you told them. That's not always a good thing. But then there's a sophisticated faith. What's a sophisticated faith? Emunah that is above faith, above intellect. What does above intellect mean? There's sometimes when it comes to God, for example, you understand as much as you can about God. Your mind takes you as far as possible that it can reach in understanding as much as possible about God. But then you realize God is ultimately infinite, and you reach a place where that's no longer taken by intellect. And that's where you have a leap of faith. That's when you begin to you believe, you have faith in that. It's a sophisticated faith because you have maximized your intellectual ability to understand as much as you can about God. And then you begin to believe. That which you can't grasp through faith, you believe. You take through faith. That which you can't grasp through intellect, you take through faith. And in that sense, King David says, when it comes to the Ein Ein Sof, to the infinite God, everyone is like a fool. Why do you call someone a fool? What's a fool? What is a fool? Most people are smart, but there are people that are fools. They don't understand. What's the category? What's the definition of a fool? His mind is not sophisticated, is not developed. He doesn't understand basic things that normal people should understand. So he's called a fool. Right? When it comes to the infinite God, is anyone smart? No. No, the mind can't take that through the intellect. So we're all fools compared to that level. Huh? We're all fools when it comes to that level. So what Alter Rebbe is getting at, in the Hokhmah shebenefesh, that level of your soul that is beyond comprehension, we said Hokhmah is above Bina, that's where faith takes place. Why does faith take place over there? Because in that Hokhmah is present the infinite Hashem himself. So when you say a Yid believes in God, why does he believe in God? Because someone told him that God exists. Maybe that someone is wrong. Why do you believe? Why do you have faith? The Alter Rebbe is saying something very profound in chapter 18 here. He's saying a Yid believes in Hashem because Hashem is part of his existence. He experiences Hashem. In Hokhmah shebenefesh you experience God. It's not some wise man or some person that's trying to take advantage of you is telling you to believe something that's Baba Mises or what he wants you to believe. Emunah is, what Emunah is as follows. The Neshamah experiences God. The Neshamah experiences Hashem in Hokhmah shebenefesh. Hashem is present there. So that part of the Neshamah literally experiences it. Because again, that part of the nefesh is batel, has bittul. So the neshama is experiencing Hashem and sharing that information with your conscious mind and telling you this is true. I'm experiencing it. I see it, I feel it, I know it. And it shares that information with the rest of the existence of the neshama, and therefore in your conscious mind you believe. Let me give you, I heard a story from Rabbi Jacobson that I thought was very good. I'll share it with you. I heard it before also once, but he reminded me of it. You have, that's a story, I'll tell you a story. 300, 400 years ago, there was something in the Jewish world, they knew there was something called the poritz. You ever heard of the poritz? The squire. You know what a squire is? And the landowner. In olden times, hundreds of years ago, these landowners were given great swaths of big chunks of land to administer for the emperor, for the king, or whatever. And he collected rent, he took a part for himself, and he was in control of that area. So a lot of Jews would rent certain, this is true, a lot of Jews would rent an inn on a squire's land. He would give it to the Jew to run. The Jew would have to pay rent and live with. That was the parnasa, that was the livelihood for the Jewish people. Many Jews. If you didn't pay the rent, you were in trouble. So that happened once that there were a few families that couldn't pay the rent. There was a bad winter. It was snowy. It was freezing. People weren't traveling. No one was coming to stay in the hotel, and the Jews did not make money. Those few families that were in charge of these inns didn't make money, and they couldn't pay the rent. A month, 2 months, 3 months, a season, a whole year went by. They didn't pay the rent. The poritz, the squire, was now, he had full power. He could throw you into a dungeon, and you stay there till you die. So he took these 3 Jews, these 3 families. He said, within 1 week, you don't pay me the rent, you're going into the dungeon. Underground dungeon, that's where you're going to stay, till you pay me the rent. They couldn't come up with the money. He took all 3 families and threw them into the dungeon. Each one had a husband, a wife, and 3 kids. So there were 6 adults and 9 children in this dungeon. And he told his one of his servants, every single day, you'll go to the opening of this dungeon, and you'll throw in there a few loaves of bread and a few bottles of water. And you'll shut it, and you want it. And it's pitch dark in there. That's how they, and life, they started, that was life. It's a tragedy. They grew up, and life goes on, and you start getting used to every situation, right? So every day the food came in through the hole, and they were living, life. They got used to it. Started building families, build bigger families. Started building bigger families. And before you know it, there's a lot of people, there's children are being born over there, and next generation is there, and these kids are now marrying each other, and it's good, and now hundreds of years passed, and they're in the dungeon, and now it's like a lot of people. Families multiplied, and it's a big, almost like a whole village down there. And the father and the mother and the few people that experience life in the normal world always taught the kids that were born in the cave, you should know there's a world out there, there's a sun that rises every morning, and there's plants that grow, and there's a whole world. But they never saw it, they never experienced it. And as time went on, the people that saw the world out there all died. And now, down there's a whole world of people that never saw the outside world. They didn't even know what it was. But they knew that there was a world out there because their father told them, their mother told them, and now it came a time where the parents that were teaching the kids about the world out there, these parents never saw the world out there. That's how many years passed. But it went on. The tradition went on. What happened? Till one day, one child was born. He grew up, and he began to doubt the whole thing. A world out there. There's no world out there. How do you know there's a world out there? They don't even, what are you talking about? You ever saw it? You ever experienced it? You ever know it? What are you? Oh, someone told you. I'm telling you it's not true. How do you know it's true? They told you. Maybe it's not true. And he began to plant doubt, to plant the seeds of doubt in all the people around. And he was quite successful. And now you had Half the people in the cave believed that there's a world out there and believed in the traditions of their fathers and grandfathers and ancestors, and the other half went and said, you guys are all nuts. And they began to debate and fight it out, right? And they said to them, what do you mean there's no world out there? Every day there's bread that comes in from if it comes out, falls into from a hole. What do you mean there's no bread? There's no world. Of course there's a world. We're getting bread and water every day. So the skeptics said, I don't know, it's a freak of nature. That's nature. That's a freak of nature. You don't know. There's no proof that there's people out there that are that are making this happen. There's no proof, right? And the doubts began to set in. When you had a split in the cave, some people said there is a world out there, some people said there isn't a world out there. Until one day, a guy was walking above the ground, and he heard noises coming from underground. He heard noises. He puts his ear down on the ground. There's a whole commotion under the ground. So he's saying, am I dreaming this? What's going on down there? He goes, he looks, he searches, he found an opening to this cave. And he went into the cave. And he meets, there's a whole world out down there. He says, who are you? Where did you come from? He said, what are you guys doing down there? He said, so what down there? That's all there is. This is our world. This is the world. So what are you talking about? There's a whole world out there. I was there. I was just in that world. I come from that world. You guys are wasting your time over here. This is your world. This is what you believe in. There's a whole world. There's a sun. There's a moon. There's people. There's animals. You're missing out on everything. Until this person, he said, how do you know? I experienced that world. That's me. I come from that world. I know this world. I'm not telling you a belief system of the past that you heard, that we all heard. This is I'm there. I come from that world. I experienced it. This is what Alter Rebbe is telling us over here in chapter 18 in Tanya. That people that believe in Hashem, because they're told that there's a God. For example, a non-Jew. A non-Jew believes in Hashem also. A Gentile can have a wonderful belief in Hashem. And there's millions and billions of Gentiles that believe in Hashem. Well, why do they believe in Hashem? They believe in Hashem because they're smart people. And the intellect of their brain leads them. They debated the issue. They know it makes no sense that water and bread fall into the world every day from nowhere. They believe there's a God. There must be a God. Their intellect tells them this is impossible, that this is happening by itself. So they come to believe in God. It's like the people down there after 300 years that never saw this world, never heard this world, don't know what it is, but they believe in it because it makes no sense that there shouldn't be a world that we made ourselves. That the water and bread is falling in over here from nowhere. There must be someone that's giving it. So they believe in God. The Alter Rebbe is saying a Yid believes in a whole different way. The faith of a Yid is not through the intellect. That's a way that you can get to believe in God through intellect, but that's not the way we believe. The faith of a Yid is because the Neshamah experiences the Eibishter. The Hokhmah Nefesh is in that world. He visits us every so often and says, I am from that world. I'm part of Hashem's reality. I experience the Eibishter. I experience God every moment. I am a piece of Hashem. Hokhmah Nefesh is the seat, is the part of our Neshamah where God is present, and therefore the Neshamah experiences it. It's not being told by someone that heard from someone that in other words, through the intellect. You know why it's not enough to believe in Hashem through intellect alone? Because you can get because intellect is limited. You believe in God because you're forced. Your intellect tells you there must be a God. It can't happen by itself. What happens if some great professor who has a tremendous ability to explain himself and says, no, it could happen by itself? Now you're doubtful. he can plant a doubt in your mind. Because it's all based on the intellect. Someone with a greater intellect can convince you otherwise. But when you're Neshamah, could you tell that person that ended up coming into the cave, he found the opening, you can tell him, no, there's no world out there. You can never tell him such a thing. I saw the world. I'm in that world. Don't tell me there's no world. The Neshamah experiences that world. The Neshamah experiences the Eibishter. This is not something that's outside of it that someone is telling us. This is us. We experience the Eid and Sof. The Alter Rebbe is going to prove soon how this is true. You can ask, how do you know? What is the Neshama experience? The Alter Rebbe is going to prove it. At the end of chapter 18 and through chapter 19. That this is real. That the Neshama actually experiences the Eid and Sof. But that's what he's saying over here. Hokhmah shebenefesh, we got it from the eight, from the Ovis, from the fathers, from the forefathers. They merited the bequeath to every single one of us on the Neshamah, which through with 10 faculties that come from the spheres, the 10 faculties of Hashem and Atzilus, and the Hokhmah of our nefesh is the place where the Hokhmah of Atzilus is present. The Eid and Sof is present in Hokhmah of Atzilus. The infinite light of Hashem is present in the Hokhmah of Atzilus, and through that in the Hokhmah of each of our souls. And therefore, to us, godliness is not an amunah which is based on seichel. It's an amunah it's a faith that's based on experience. In this case, being foolish is an advantage. What am I being foolish? We're not taking it through the intellect. When it comes to the Eid and Sof, could you believe could the intellect grasp the Eid and Sof? Never. The intellect can grasp certain aspects of Hashem, but never the essence, never the infinite level of Hashem. A Yid's amunah, a Yid's faith grasps the infinite. Why? Because that's not through intellect that we're taking it. We're taking it through the Hokhmah shebenefesh, where that infinite light of Hashem is present. We're experiencing it. And that's and the Neshamah is telling it to the rest of the body. You should know this is real. I'm experiencing it. And that gets us moving. That's why we do mitzvahs. That's why we're ready we're committed to Hashem. Any questions? You understand? Let's read it in the Alter Rebbe's words. We're going to start again from now Hokhmah. Again from the top of the column on page 77. Now Hokhmah, wisdom, is the source of intelligence and comprehension. And it is above Bina, it's the source, it's above Bina, understanding, which is intellectual understanding and comprehension. Whereas Hokhmah is above them, and their source. Note the etymological composition of the word Hokhmah. This is hinted in the word Hokhmah itself, which makes up the words koyachma, the potentiality of what is, or the faculty of what. Koyach, faculty of ma, of what? You still don't have it. You're yourself asking, what did I just experience? You don't know, you don't understand it, but you feel it, you experience it. That which is not yet comprehended and understood or grasped intellectually. Consequently, there is vested in it, because of that, because it is not yet, that's not the koyach, the faculty of understanding, it's the faculty of bittul, if anything. That is why there is vested in it the light of the Ein Sof, blessed be He, who can in no way be comprehended by any thought. Hence, all Jews, even women and the illiterate, believe in God, since faith is beyond understanding and comprehension. For the simple believe everything, but the prudent man understands. That's a pasuk where in Mishlei, in Proverbs. So even though a fool, when he believes, it's not such a good thing, because it could be gullible. You don't want to be gullible. What we see from this verse, all the Alter Rebbe is trying to prove from this verse, is that the idea of faith is beyond intellect. Let's read that verse again. The simple believe everything, but the prudent man understands. In other words, believe is not through understanding. Sometimes it could be a gullible man's weakness. Sometimes it's a profound faith. But with regard to the Holy One, blessed be He, who is beyond intelligence and knowledge, and who can in no way be comprehended by any thought, all men are like fools in His blessed presence. The highest intellect, Einstein himself, the greatest tzaddik, the greatest profound, his intellect is not what takes the infinite. We're all fools compared to the Eibishter, and compared to the infinite God. All men are like fools in His blessed presence. As is written, King David says, so brutish am I and ignorant. I am as a beast before thee. Like an animal. What does an animal understand? My intellect is the same as an animal. He's saying, compared to the infinite God, we're all the same. Yet, I am continually with you. Now, the Alter Rebbe explains this verse a little bit different. The verse, when you read it, face value is saying, I am brutish, I'm like an animal. Nevertheless, I'm still with you. Despite all that, I'm still with you. Even though I don't understand you, I'm still with you. The Alter Rebbe says just the opposite. He's saying, meaning, it's not in spite of the fact that I'm brutish and I'm like an animal. It's because I am brutish and a beast, I am continually with thee. Because I am above, in other words, through intellect, I would never be with you, because intellect can never get you. Is because I'm brutish. In other words, in the presence of the infinite, we're all brutish and like beasts. We never understand it, and that's why I'm with you, because it's based on faith, not intellect. If it was based on intellect, I would never be with you. I would never have you. Through intellect, you can't take it. Through ears, you can't take art. Through eyes, you can't take music. It's because I'm brutish and like an animal, a beast. In other words, my intellect is not what's taking you. What's taking you is my faith. Therefore, now, but before we go to therefore, I want to mention one important thing. The fact of the matter is, many Jews who have Hokhmah shebenefesh, who have a Neshamah, say they don't believe in God. Here, what Alter Rebbe is saying, not only do you believe in God because someone told you, you're actually experiencing it. You're from that world. So why don't they believe? Why do we see Jews that say, I don't believe in God? There's no question that this Hokhmah shebenefesh could also be concealed within us. It could be concealed, which is a tragedy. It could be concealed. You don't even know you have it. So that's our job, to reveal the Hokhmah shebenefesh. That's not, you got to work on that. And Alter Rebbe gives us the means to do that. But it's possible that it should be complete. You're unaware that you have a nefesh. And therefore you'll never know, you'll never experience it. Your Neshamah is experiencing it, but you don't even know you have a Neshamah. So in your conscious mind, you're not aware of it. That could happen. That's what we call Ava Mesuteres. It's a hidden love. By some people, it's really hidden. It's not revealed. All you have to do is reveal it. It's there. That's what Alter Rebbe is trying to say. This is really, it's within us. It's our experience. But it could be concealed. Now the Alter Rebbe finishes off the chapter. I'd like to finish the chapter today if possible. What time is it?
It's 25 of 11.
Oh, it's getting later. Let's go for 10 more minutes. You with me? Okay. Mm-hmm. Now the Alter Rebbe says something important. This is why before I go further, when we say that in the presence of the infinite God, we're all like fools. Is that a good thing to be a fool or not? Well, it depends. Something that you could take with intellect and you're taking via faith, that's foolish. That's stupid. If you could understand something, understand it. Don't just believe. If your mind can take something, if something is available through the intellect, don't take it through faith. That's a fool. You know what happens to such people? You can talk to them. You can talk them into worse things. You can make them into cult believers. Something that you can take through faith. Don't rely on. I'm sorry. Something you can take through intellect. Don't rely on faith. That makes you a fool. But something that you can take through intellect, the infinite God, which you experience, it's in your Neshamah. There's only one way to take it, through faith. That's not a fool. Faith is the experience of the Neshamah, and that Neshamah is sharing with your mind and telling you, I'm experiencing this is true. Now, your mind is taking as much as it could through intellect. But when it gets to the Ein Sof, to the infinite is not something you can grasp through your finite mind. So that you take through faith. So the truth of Hashem is fixed in the soul of the Jew, through faith, not through intellect. Intellect is not a player when it comes to the infinite God. Are there any questions? All right, let's finish up the chapter today. What? Now the Alter Rebbe is going to say, he's going to prove that this is true. I have a suspicion that I'm going to need another week for this, but let's go through. Therefore, even the most worthless of worthless and the transgressors of the Israelites, the lowest Jew, the transgressors, the worthless, is in the majority of cases sacrifice their lives for the sanctity of God's name and suffer harsh torture rather than deny the one God. Let me explain to you what the Alter Rebbe is going to be saying over here. First orally, and then we'll learn it inside, and we'll wrap up today's class. There are a lot of people a lot of faiths, a lot of religions in the world. And a lot of the adherents to these religions are very committed to their religious faith. They are. Many of them. Not all of them, but many of them. You have people that give up their life for their faith. You know that. Not only Jews, even Muslims, Christians. They'll give up their life for their faith, right? Why will they give up their life for their faith? Isn't their life more important? Why is a person ready to give up his life for his faith? What do you think? It's because he's an ideologue. And to him, if you take away my faith, take away my life. That's my life. That's what I believe in. This has become my life. I don't feel that life is worth living if you take away from me what I'm living for. This is an ideological person, a real deep ideologue. In every faith you find such people. So let's take, for example, a Muslim or a Christian or a Christian. Who gives up his life for his faith. This is a person that's living his faith to the fullest, right? And when you force him against it, he says, I'd rather not live than without my faith. Okay, so he's ready to die. But we'll take that person, that same person. On a regular Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, he doesn't go to church. Never visits church. He violates every law in Christianity or of Islam. Do you think that person is going to give up his life for his faith? A secular Christian will give up his life for his faith? That will never happen. It's impossible. Why would he? It's not his life. It's not his life. He's not living the faith. It is not a deep ideologue. Why would he give up his life for it? And he won't. The bottom line is he won't. A secular Muslim is not giving up his life for his faith because he doesn't have the faith. That faith is not deep inside of him. So why would he give up? It didn't become his life. So you're not taking away anything when you don't let him be a Muslim. It's not his life. But here's where we find a unique thing by the Jewish people, and only by the Jewish people. And I say that with authority. You could have a secular Jew, who if you tell him, you will bow to the cross or to an idol, he will not do it under no circumstances. He will die rather than convert. I'll tell you a story. It's a famous story. There's many such stories, but I'll tell you one. There was in the shtetl, hundreds of years ago. I think it was in Krakow, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe a different city in Poland somewhere. Where there was a Jew, there was a Jew by the name of Moshe. I think maybe Yossel. Yossel, maybe his name was. I think his name was Yossel. And everyone in town called him Yossel the Ganav. Yossel the thief. Because he was a thief. He built homes. And he would go into this Jew's house by night, that guy's house, and he'd get a few ruble. That's how he made his living. One day he wakes up and says, I can't make a living. This is crazy. I have to go after a few ruble here. Every night I have to worry they're going to catch me. This is ridiculous. I got to make one good geneva, one good burglary. That'll give me enough for 10 years of life. I can steal gold and silver. What am I wasting my time with the copper or rubles? He decided, where is all the money hidden? Where could you get real money? In the church. They have wealth. So he decided one night he's going to go and burglarize the church. He made a whole plan. He got his friends, the other gun of him in town. And he wasn't. This guy was a thief. He was a lowly Jew. Let's put him in. Didn't do the mitzvah. He wasn't really into it. He was a thief. He made this whole plan. He got a ladder in the back window, and if someone's a watchman that was going to say if they're coming, he goes in. He finds the gold. He's climbing down the ladder. As he comes down, the priest walks right by and catches him. This is an offense to the church. They brought the thing to the council of town. What do we do with this guy? We got to show. We got to learn, teach a lesson. This is an affront to Christianity. They decided the death penalty. He's going to get the death penalty. We're going to burn him in public. One day they're going to make a big fire and invite the whole town, all the Christians. That we're going to burn him in public. It's a true story. And they told, and that was the ruling. What happened? The priest felt a little bit, let me see if we can change this situation. They offered Yossel the following offer. So you convert. He had 10 children, this Yossel. He was a man with 10, he had a lot of children. And some of them were small. You will convert to Christianity, and you're going to live. You'll live. They gave him that offer. Here he is, a father of 10 children, imagine. What would he have to do to convert to Christianity? They'll sprinkle some water on him. What do they do to convert? Even inside, he doesn't even have to believe in it. He can just say, he would do it almost like, as a show. You won't even believe it. He'll be a closet Jew. So he won't even take it upon himself, but he'll live. They gave him the offer. You know what he said? It's a true story. It's under no circumstances am I converting to Christianity. No way in a million years. 10 children. They said, okay. They made a date when this thing is happening, and they said, that's it. This is the day that we're going to burn you at the stake. The whole town came. They brought Yossel in chains, and they built a big platform where they were going to have him. The priest came up, and they gave him, and his kids were there. The whole town was no joke. And the priest climbed up to where Yossel was and says, Yossel, you have your kids watch. I want to save your life. Don't be stupid. I'm giving you an opportunity to convert to Christianity, and you don't have to worry about it. Yossel said in a loud voice, I'm Emes HaMaisa, true story. And the Yossel is a Ganiv, but Yossel is a Yid. Yossel is a thief, but Yossel is a Yid. He said that 3 times. He said, Shema Yisroel, and he jumped into the fire. And he died like Kiddush Hashem. He died sanctifying God's name. Now, you have to analyze this story. This is not only one story. There's many in our history of such stories. This is not an ideological Jew. He's stealing. He's not an honest person. He's not living Torah mitzvah. He's not living the Judaism. He's not a person that's living Judaism. I'm not sure he went to shul every day. He didn't probably. He wasn't a religious Jew. He was violating Hashem's Torah every single day. Where does he get this ideal? Suddenly became an ideologue. How did that happen? How did that happen? No, really. Such a thing can never happen by any other religion in the world. You can give your life up for an ideal if you're an ideologue. If you're an ideologue. That became your life. To Yosel, Judaism was not his life. His life became everything that was the antithesis to Judaism. Yet, he gave up his life for Judaism, for something he doesn't believe in, for something he's not living on a daily life. How did that happen? How does that happen? He's going to elaborate on this more in chapter 19. But this is a phenomenon that we find by Jews only. You know why it is? Hokhmah benefesh. He can't deny himself. When you hit him at the real, when you touched Hokhmah benefesh woke up. Till then it was concealed completely. And he wasn't even aware that he had it. He was gone, he was stealing, he was a thief, a no goodnik. But when they put him to the wall, Hokhmah benefesh woke up. And when Hokhmah benefesh wakes up, you can't deny it. Because it is experiencing Hashem himself. He can't go against himself. And he threw himself into the fire. When Hokhmah benefesh wakes up, every Jew becomes an ideologue. Because that's who he is. That's his very essence. He's not believing because his intellect, some smart person told him. He's believing because he comes from that world. He's experiencing that. He's experiencing the Ein Sof. So how could he deny it? How can I go away from it? I can't go away from it. This, the Alter Rebbe says, comes from the Hokhmah benefesh. This is almost a proof. There's more. There's other proofs. This is the greatest proof that Yidden believe in Hashem, not because of Seichel, because of Hokhmah benefesh. Hashem is present in their soul. They're one with Hashem. It's their existence, is their identity. And you can't go against your own identity. And this is the answer why even non-ideological Jews became the greatest ideologues in a moment of faith, in a moment of truth, when they were pressed to the wall. You will not find that anywhere else. Because it doesn't exist. There's no. It goes against the grain. It goes against a non-Jew believes in the Eibishter also, but based on Seichel. His Seichel brought him to believe in God. His intellect brought him to believe in God. So if his intellect really became convinced, he'll give his life up for it. If he's convinced and he lives it, and that became who he is, he'll give his life up for it. But if he's not living it, he's not ideological about it, why would he give up his life for it? It's not him. Why should I give up, even if he believes in God, why should I give up my life for something that's not me? I believe in you, but I'm not ready to die for you. Mm-hmm. But if it's you, if a non-Jew, if it became him, that became his life, he's passionate about, that's his whole life, then he'll give it up. He'll give up his life, because life became that. Take that away. You took away life. I might as well die. Fine. But someone that's not living it. See, he may say, I believe in God. But it doesn't become me. That's not my life. Why? I'm not giving up my life for it. You don't give up your life for truths. You give up your life if it's your truth. If that's you. So either an ideologue or a Jew, even if he's not an ideologue. Because in him, God is present. In his Neshamah, it's real. See, even if he's not ideological in his day-to-day life, in other words, that Hokhmah benefesh is concealed, he will give up his life. Because when you press him to the wall, Hokhmah benefesh wakes up. And when that wakes up, there's no taking it away. We'll elaborate on this more next week.
Week after.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not here next week.
No.
I'll start next time from that point where it begins to talk this thing.
Very good.